She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karas' Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karas, and we are still Zooming because we are still in this COVID thing. I don't even know. I just want to go and have it just all go away. I don't know. But anyway, it's working. We're getting guests. People are coming on the podcast. So I'm just grateful and thankful that I also get to talk to other people other than my husband. So before we start, though, we have two great guests. I'm so excited. Got to do the ads. We have to thank our sponsors. Our first one is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising needs. They can help you with any type of a flyer. They can help you with your social media. They help me with mine. They can also analyze the demographics of your business, and they're experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, to find out where all the Greek entertainment is, and there will be, trust me. And HellenicFestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. They are coming, I promise. Also, our other sponsors, Select Flex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? Well, I finally took one out of the box because they gave it to me. This is an orthotic, and let me tell you something. This is the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, you put this in your shoe. It's over the counter. It's got great support, and also there is a little, you see this hole, there's a little key, and you adjust the arch to firm, extra firm, extra firm, depending on what your support is. I do not work out without these sneakers. I have these in every pair of shoes that I can possibly put them in. They come in this beautiful box, which I don't even know if I'm holding it the right way, but how about this? Go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. And for Karas Comedy Corner listeners, there is a 25% discount. If you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, you get a 25% discount. There's a little video there that shows you how that works for 30 seconds. Let me tell you something, Select Flex. I don't rehearse this. I just trust me, get them. Okay, all right, without further ado, I think I just turned my landline on. I had two great guests. This is amazing, okay? These are people that I actually first read about on Daily Mail, and they are renowned photographers, and they photograph, I'm sure they photograph lots of things, but their main focus is they photograph New York City. And you know, I am a born-bred New Yorker. I've lived here my whole life. And I was fascinated. But the article was about a store down, which is known for their egg creams, called Gems. And Daily Mail did this whole article because it's very iconic, and Madonna used to go there and all this. Anyway, this couple was interviewed for the article, and I was just fascinated. Then, I don't know, maybe a few weeks later, I'm watching TV, and I see them on WPIX. And again, talking about all the storefronts that are closing, which, if you follow me, whether it's on social media or you listen to my podcast, especially I've been talking about this obviously since Corona, but even before Corona, that it's painful to watch the city that I love, that is in my blood, change, and not for the better, crumble, deteriorate, all kinds of things. And what I love about New York City is our little stores. And it's one of the things that brings character to the city, in addition to the beautiful architecture we have here. And if you know anything about me, I'm no architecture expert. I was an accountant. Now I'm a comedian and a host, and I know nothing about drawing, but I know beauty when I see it. So I saw them on TV, and I was like, oh my gosh, those are the same people that were in that Daily Mail article. And then I went to their website, and they have a beautiful picture books about storefronts and nightlife in New York City, and just everything that I find so fascinating and so interesting. And I'm like, I have to have these people on. found them on Instagram, sent them an email. They were so kind. They sent it back. So without further ado, please welcome my guests, James and Karla Murray.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so impressed with your work and what you do, and your love for New York and its architecture and its landscape and the meaning behind every building and every storefront. So thank you so much for doing this. But before we get into all the work and I want to talk about obviously the current events and things that are happening here, I want to find out exactly where you guys are from and how did you meet? I always like to get the background.
Well, I'm a born and bred New Yorker, just like you. And now we live in the East Village, and we've actually lived in the same apartment for over 25 years and in the neighborhood for like, there's close to like since 88, right? Yeah. And we didn't know, we met in 1988 and just like hanging out around the neighborhood, and we were just friends. Like, we didn't date or anything like that. We were just friends for a really, really long time. And like, I guess, we would see each other, sometimes we would get lunch together, or, sometimes we'd grab dinner together and hang out, go see a movie or whatever. But like, I would complain about really bad boyfriends, and he would complain about his girlfriends that, he was having difficulties with or whatever. And we would always be complaining about our relationships. And then one day, like, he was supposed to meet me for lunch, and he stood me up. And I was just like, oh, what's going on here? But I didn't think anything bad. I was just like, oh gosh, something must have happened. This is like before cell phones, really. So you can't like, be extra angry at anybody because they can't really contact you that easily, like, especially if you're just waiting for someone at a place. So the next day he called me and he apologized. Something had come up, and he's like, let me make it up to you. Let's go out to dinner. I'll pick you up. And then I was just like, what do you mean you pick me up? I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking this. So immediately I called my girlfriend and I said, what does this mean? Like, he said he's going to pick me up. To me, that sounds like a date now. Like, we're not friends anymore. Like, this sounds like it's a different level. And she's like, well, sounds like it to me too. So why don't you just, dress up like you're going on a date? Just don't like, wear whatever you were wearing for work that day, or what, put a little extra effort into it just in case, and see what happens. And sure enough, it was a date, and 3 months later we were married. So.
Okay, all right, okay. Let's stop right there. Okay, did you speak to Nora Ephron? Because this is the exact script from when Harry met Sally. Okay, and at the end when they talk about getting married, they go, and 3 months to the day that we got. I mean, this is like they stood up. I can't. That's amazing.
And we just got married at City Hall. We just went down and got like a little license, whatever the week before.
Yeah, we can see it from here.
Yeah, we can see City Hall from our apartment. We live in the East Village, but we're up a little higher, so we have a nice view of downtown. And that's the rest is history. We've been together, and I mean, we've been working together, as professional photographers now for a really long time. So I guess it's unusual in a lot of ways, like that not only we live together, but work together. Like, this coronavirus thing has not changed like our life really. I mean, aside from not really having work to do because all our photography jobs got canceled. But other than that, like, we're together 24/7 anyway. So it didn't really, change our lifestyle as opposed to a lot of our friends.
Well, with my husband and I, we're both sort of out and about. So this definitely changed. I would say that after about 10 days, we ran out of things to talk to each other about. So we're open to suggestions. We've gone through our wedding album. We looked through each other's yearbook. We're done. We have really conversations. So, really, that is really. It's such a sweet, beautiful story, and I love it. Do you have any children?
No. We have a fur baby,
okay,
which is our rescue dog Hudson. So we're Paul parents.
Okay. Well, no, we don't have any. I've been married 11 years. So you're married, how long is it? When did you get married? In 90 or
Well, and on September 11th, that's our anniversary. It'll be 26 years.
26 years? Oh, that's so sweet. Well, so how did photography come into play? Where was that happening?
Well, when we met, like we both like had a passion for photography, and we always like, you know, not always carried our camera with us, like each of us, but we did a lot, but we weren't making a living from our photography. That was just, you know, fun. And really the making a living from photography more came about, I guess that was around, late 1990s. We really said, you know, we were both working a lot of jobs, and we just said, you know what, we should just try to, you know, let's go for it. Let's just try to build a portfolio and, you know, get clients to, you know, pay for our work. I mean, we do a lot of architectural and interior photography. I mean, that's how we make our living. But the documenting the stores has been like our love, our passion for, you know, I mean, such a long time now, like really since the late 1990s.
Right,
yeah, so we weren't, you know, we were always taking these mom and pop storefront photos because we really loved them. I mean, the very reason we moved to the East Village is that we really love like its vibrancy, because it has so many like small, unique, quirky stores, a lot of restaurants, cafes, bars, nightclubs. I mean, at the time, there were a lot of art galleries too in the neighborhood. It was like a really, really fun place to be. And it just like felt like us. So we're just like, okay, that's where we're going to live. And
what neighborhood did you move from? Where did you grow up exactly?
I mean, I grew up, I'm from Kingsbridge in the Bronx. And
yeah, I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So you moved to the city like after college or for college or something?
Yeah, early 80s.
Yeah, I mean,
late 80s.
Yeah, he's been around the area a little longer than I have. So I mean, as far as the clubs and things like that, he knows even better than I do some of the really like, you know, like I guess you could say the gritty times of the neighborhood, you know, like you know, when it was really, you know, he has this little thing of A was
all right, B was bad, C was crazy, D was deaf.
You know, for average.
Yeah, and you wouldn't go east of 3rd Avenue then.
Right, like where we live, like you wouldn't.
We did, but
well, we did, but like you wouldn't live here really unless you were buying drugs. Like that was really the only reason to, you know, go further east. I mean, unless you lived here, you know.
Right.
So a lot has changed, and you know, it really wasn't our own neighborhood where we started documenting these stores. What we were doing is we were going into a lot of different neighborhoods in like Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. And we began photographing these stores just because we were really into graffiti art at the time. And graffiti art is like a letter-based art form. It's all about like manipulating the letter, like your tag as far as the style. So we were always looking for inspiration like on the stores because a lot of them had interesting hand-painted signs. Like this one, like that's why we chose for the cover of our book. You see this Ralph's, that was one of our favorites. We're like, look at this S, like how cool is that? So we took a picture of the store.
Where is Ralph's? Where's that?
That was in Tribeca. That was on Chambers Street, and it unfortunately got the whole building got knocked down. The guy who owned the building, and he was there since 1963. It was like a discount store. Not a 99-cent store like you have now, but more on that vein. Like there was a little bit of everything, and it was really, really cheap. And I mean, I used to go and get stuff for school there or toiletries. I mean, you name it, and they had it, and it was inexpensive. And yeah, so he didn't own the building, and the landlord sold it to a developer, and that's it. They kicked him out. You know, he didn't want to leave, but he didn't have a choice. And it was a low one-story building. And there was significant air rights. So they built a big, you know, high-rise, expensive condo. And honestly, the last time we checked was like around last year.
Yeah, it was
we went, and you know, the building got built, and I think they knocked it down in like 2004 or something like that. Right. It's still empty. like the
retail store.
the retail space, like on the ground floor, is still empty. So, I mean, for us, that's what really was the impetus for us to really start documenting these stores more and more, as that we began to see that they were disappearing. Like we say, oh my God, what happened to that little candy store? We went to that neighborhood in Brooklyn, and we went in there and we got like some candy, and we spoke with the owner briefly. She was so nice. She made us laugh. And then we'd go back to that neighborhood and it would be gone. And somehow like the neighborhood didn't look the same anymore. It didn't feel the same anymore. Like it lost its uniqueness, or like whatever, you know, the charm that we like felt like when we were there. It had gone without these little stores, you know, especially if it's like just an empty storefront, or it gets replaced by something generic, you know, like a chain store. So we just began
to kind of jump to that point. I mean, I completely agree with you. I think the charm of New York and what makes it so unique, and I've been to, and I'm sure you have, you know, Chicago and Boston, and well, LA is kind of a different place, you know, and they're all very lovely, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just, there's no place like New York. It's got, you know, almost like a little touch of Europe. But its own personality. And I live on the Upper East Side. I have lived on the Upper West Side. I lived there for years. I moved to the Upper East Side. I grew up in Washington Heights. So that is a really, you know, I mean, talk about architecture and talk about stores. And I mean, it was really like a neighborhood. So
my mom grew up in Washington Heights too. So yeah, I know the neighborhood really well.
It was very, it was Greek, Irish,
Jewish. Yeah, I mean, it was
Jewish, like, which is still up on Fort Washington Avenue, and so it was much. I mean, there was definitely Spanish, but not as much as there was now. Cubans. I mean, I had one of my best friends was Cuban in my building. Right. But you know, it was the same thing. So I was so used to it. You go to the bakery, you go to the you know, the shoemaker, the deli, and you know, to you and I, you know, deli has a completely different meaning than to, you know, people from even Long Island. I mean, it's just maybe that's not a good example, but you know, I don't know, you know, New Jersey or something, Pennsylvania.
Right. It's like to us, it's the corner store. Like you just go to the corner store and you get
right. You know, the shoemaker, you know, the little laundry places, you know, down below, and I love walking by and just, you know, seeing them ironing and, you know, folding laundry, and I mean, it's got that, like, you know, the dryer smell as you're walking by.
Exactly.
I mean, it just all the bakeries. I mean, I'm a sweet addict. I love a good bakery, especially those Italian ones in Brooklyn are like, forget it. And you know, and again, it's become so much harder and harder. But to get to sort of what's going on in my neighborhood, something what you said about the box stores, you know, like, listen, even years ago, I noticed Starbucks started coming in. So again, I'm Greek. You know, I love a diner, okay? I'm a Greek coffee. I'm the Vasileros, you know, the cans that you see. I'm sure you guys know because you're very detail-oriented. You know, Gus in the back, grilling, the grill guy with the mustache, Costa, he's got the plastic menus. You know, I'm all about the coffee shop, the diner. Viand is, I think, still around on Madison, 3 guys.
Oh, yeah, that's a little hole in the wall. Yep.
Right, there's been so many. And then there's the big diners that we don't necessarily have in Manhattan, but they have them in Brooklyn, Queens. The Neptune Diner. Yeah, the Neptune Diner right over the Triborough Bridge. I mean, like if you're Greek and you haven't been there, they'll take away your Greekhood. Like, it's, you know, you have to do that. So when I saw like sort of Starbucks coming in and this and that, which, you know, by the way, it's like, I still to this day don't understand the enthusiasm about Starbucks and you know, and all these coffee shops. But anyway, okay, whatever. And then the Dwayne Reeds, and then the CVS's, and you know, there's a Walgreens, a CVS, and a Dwayne Reed, you know, within a block of each other. And then banks had come in, although now their branches are closing. And I started to notice quite a while ago, years ago, that the landscape was changing because the rents got higher. These big corporations, and I'm not anti-corporate at all, but these big corporations started to come in because they could pay the rent, and everything started to sort of look alike. But let me tell you something that happened. About a year ago, we got in our neighborhood a Target, and it is a smaller scale, so it's not sort of like the huge one you see in whatever in
Brooklyn.
Long Island town, Franklin Square or whatever. But although I think they're going to wind up expanding, but when I saw that, even though I knew that I would get my toilet paper at a better price, it bothered me. It really changed the landscape. So I'm afraid and again, nothing against Cleveland, but I'm afraid we're going to look like Cleveland. It's not what New York's about. So what you just said, we feel the same way. It's like, I don't know, don't come here.
Did you go to Glasser's Bakery?
Yes. Yes. Very good. Very good. And the same thing I was just about to say too, what's sort of, dying on the vine is the stationery store. You go, you buy your notebook and your pencils and this. And then, when Staples, started to come in 15 years ago and Office Max, that destroyed, the stationery store. Not that anybody writes anymore. I like to, but I know it's.
Well, you see, you can see we have typewriters up in the background here. All right. If I take you can see one of them there in the background.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
So, yeah, we still are big, writers ourselves. So
right,
yeah,
right.
I take a pen and paper and then type it up.
Right.
To me, I like it. It's typing on the computer.
Yeah, I'm a big handwriter as well. So you have three books. You have a bunch of books. You have a storefront. So you have a book, Storefront, the Disappearing Face of New York. And then another one, Storefront Part 2, A History Preserved, Broken
Correct.
Windows and Graffiti. You have another book also about nightlife. I want to get to that. But your books, I can look at your website all day. The pictures are so beautiful. It really is a great gift to get
Thank you
somebody.
so much.
Oh my God, I was looking, I was like, they're so colorful, and maybe you can articulate this for me, but because you feel the same way I do, but I'm not able to put it into words. What is it about seeing something that says the pork store? What is it about that old signage that we are attracted to? Do you know? Can you?
Well, for us, it's like some intangible feeling. People now, a lot of stores, they just especially the chain stores, they don't even put up a window display. They just cover it all up. It's so impersonal to us. It's you spend time on a nice window display. That was you'd pass by and you'd be like, wait a minute, look at that window. And I would stop and I would look, and then I would go in the store because of the window display. So to us, not only the signage is important, but also the products, or, a peek inside the store. Sometimes if they don't have a window display, but say a barber shop or something, and you see that, the door is open and you can just see the row of barber chairs there, and it looks like a Norman Rockwell painting, you want to go to that barber, that looks like a great guy to get your hair cut at.
Right. Oh God, I know barber, exactly. I feel the same way. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a big city with an old time feeling.
Exactly.
And I think too, for people of, our generation, it's a nostalgia as well, because we remember our grandparents or parents, going to the pork store or and going to the bakery. And my great grandmother used to pick me up from school, and they call it the furno, which is oven in Greek. And there was one right by her building, and of course she knew them, that's the other thing too. You build a relationship with these people, so that's amazing. But so that's why, like, when I walk into a bakery, and not ones at like Stop and Shop, you know what I mean? Like a real baker, and you smell that bread, it just brings you back. And it's a great feeling. It's a nice, it's a homey feeling. I mean, listen, the world's on fire, for God's sakes. Like, I'm trying to hang on. I try to be positive. I really just like making people happy. And it's just like, I'm trying to hang on to a little bit of stuff for myself, that can kind of keep you going. But I think it's that some of that, like the nostalgic, and like you said, now these stores, I mean, it's just very impersonal. There's nothing it's like that. It's generic.
Right. And like you said about the owners, I mean, they generally care about their customers and they care about the community. And like, people don't realize that, like, a small little mom and pop store, usually they hire local. So then the money stays in the community. Whereas a chain store, they might advertise like for somebody, out of the country, even, like, to come and work there. I mean, whatever they can find that's like the cheapest, that's all they really care about, is to hire somebody at the lowest cost possible.
Right.
So, and also going in, like, you make a friend. Like, we tell people, hey, we spend so many hours, like, because we also interviewed the owners. Like, in our books, it's not just the photographs. We would interview the owners. Like, we would spend hours with them, asking them, like, pointed questions about their store. Like, really, it all began, like, we wanted to find out, like, why is this store still in business, like, after 100 years? And the one next door closed. Like, do they have a secret, like, recipe? Like, what is the secret to their longevity? So we would ask them all these questions. And then that's when the project really took off, because the owners had, like, all these great stories, like, to share with us, sometimes about, like, that it was passed down from generation to generation in their family. And, like, they would tell us even funny stories, like how their family even got here in the first place. Because, say, a pork store, you mentioned one. I remember I asked an owner, oh, did you make pork, like sausages back in Italy? Did your family have a pork store? And he's like, oh, no, of course not. Well, what happened, and this is a really funny story, I'll make it quick. He said, oh, what happened was my great-grandfather came here from Italy, and he went to go get a sausage, and when he got home, he found a splinter in it. And he was so irate that he went back to the store, and he's like, you don't know how to make a sausage. There should never be a splinter, because obviously there shouldn't be a little piece of bone in your sausage. He's like, I know how to make sausages better than you. I'm going to open my own store, and I'm going to put you out of business. And that's exactly what he did. So that's like genesis of how this, like, pork store became what it is today, which is a really great store. And that's Fiacco's, which, Fiacco's, I like to say, Italian pork store in Greenwich Village. They have another one. They have another location in Brooklyn. But yeah, that's the story of how they started. So just hearing that, like, we were just like, wow, that's so incredible. Like, it all started from just, like, Grandpa being extra angry about finding a little splinter in his sausage.
I love that. And there's probably hundreds of stories like that, this sort of by accident. Back in the day too, not only did they open up a store, but because you were able to do this, they would buy the building. And
that's what you hope. I mean, that's the reason why Fiacco's is still in Greenwich Village today, because Greenwich Village became super, super, super expensive. And there's no way, I mean, the owner told us that, if his family hadn't bought the building many, many, many years ago, that, they would have been priced out, because rents, I mean, I can tell you a little pizza place, which is just down the block from it on Bleecker Street. They forced him out, the landlord. They wanted a $1 million guarantee. Not only did they increase his rent, they like tripled his rent, but they wanted $1 million for him to stay there. So, he left. But that happens time and time again. Like, that's the main reason why these stores close. I mean, this is before coronavirus. Now we have our own set of problems of why the stores are closing. But prior to the COVID outbreak, if it closed, it was mostly because the owner didn't own the building that the store was located in, and then the rent just got too much. It got, increased to a point where they couldn't, afford it anymore.
Right. It's so sad. But just to kind of get back to back in the day. You'll like this. My grandfather was a waiter at Ratner's.
Oh,
Was the Jewish and
when it was on Delancey.
yeah, it was on Deland. And then was there another one called Rappaport's?
There was another Ratner's, and there was a bakery Ratner's on 2nd Avenue. So they had a little bakery there as well, because that was its own little Jewish enclave at one point as well.
Right, the Lower East Side with
Exactly.
Katz's is and we used to go down to Delancey Street to go shopping. But yeah, my grandfather was a waiter at Ratner's, and my grandmother was a seamstress, and she worked in the garment center when it was the garment center. And
right, then that was on the Lower East Side.
Right. Although I think she worked, believe in the 30s, and she worked for a few places, but one of the places she worked for was Oscar de la Renta before he became, as famous as he is now. Then. But yeah, I mean, I remember also growing up chock full of nuts, that was, that was the Starbucks, with,
yeah. I remember they had that big thing in Times Square, that big.
Herald Square was it Herald Square or Times Square?
Oh, was it Herald Square?
Yeah.
Okay, but didn't they have the ad with the a coffee?
Yeah,
smoking coffee cup.
Smoking coffee cup. Yep, I totally remember. Well, Times Square in and of itself too. I was watching this documentary about Judy Garland and Sid Luft, her third husband, and they had a lot of New York pictures because she had done some Broadway shows and stuff. And I just gravitate to those pictures, to see the stores. Of course, they had that big Camel cigarettes, I think the guy was smoking or something. Of course, obviously, wouldn't do that now, but we have other stuff, and we have just like naked pictures, just random, and Equinox finds it okay to just put posters of naked people, on the Upper East Side as kids are walking by. That seems to be okay. But anyway, I'm not advocating for either one. I'm just saying, it's interesting how the priorities have changed,
right.
and all this other kind of stuff. But so let's just talk about now sort of what's going on. Gems was the place. I've never had an egg cream there. I'm really bummed.
Gem Spa, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And Gem Spa, right. And by the way, I've never been to Katz's. So that's sort of on my bucket list to go to, to get that pastrami sandwich.
They have outdoor dining now.
I know. I saw it someplace. But so Gem Spa was very famous for their egg creams, and it was really just like a mainstay. And it's sort of in that same category as again, something that's kind of dying on the vine, the newsstand, right? Because people aren't really buying the newspaper anymore, and they're not really buying magazines, and we're reading online, and so that's
what had made the bulk of their business years ago. I mean, that was one of the first places that got the Village Voice and also like the Sunday Times.
Yeah, people would run over to get their apartment.
Yeah, you'd go on a Saturday night
and line up.
So you could you could call and try to get an apartment before anyone else. This is before internet and everything, where you actually had to make a phone call to get something done. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Jack Kerouac got his egg creams there.
Yeah, I mean that spot was, to us, it was like the Times Square of the East Village.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a really, really, really busy corner. And if you wanted to meet somebody, a bunch of times we just met in front of it. You'd be like, okay, meet you in front of Gem Spa, and then that's all you had to say.
Right. So that was at St. Mark's Place, right there, right on
the corner of 2nd Avenue.
And so it was also in Desperately Seeking Susan. As we know, Madonna is one of the famous, one of the most famous East Village former residents ever. I think, to me, when she, sort of burst onto the scene, that was probably when I got interested in the East Village. Sometimes it just takes a famous person, to do it. But I think she brought a little bit of publicity to it, so to speak. I mean, it was, it was happening obviously before her, but I think that she sort of put it on the map, especially with Desperately Seeking Susan and all that kind of stuff. So, But the Ramones also did the picture of their cover of it. Was it the Ramones that they did the
New York Dolls did
New
their
York
back.
Dolls? That's what it was. Yeah. So when I had seen that, and then obviously that's where I saw you guys. But so you must, you feel the same way. I mean, what's happening? Like what are we going to do? And then with Corona. So we were watching this happen prior to, obviously, rents. Also, New York City is making it impossible for anybody to do business between regulation. And again, I'm not saying kitchens should be dirty, of course, but taxes and water and this and that. And it's just like, they've driven a lot out of business.
The store owners call it the hidden tax. The hidden tax is all the city's little rules and regulations, some of which make absolutely zero sense, but they get fined for them. And it all adds up little after little. I mean, we didn't even realize when we first started documenting them, and then we would go in and ask the owner, we would be like, oh, you have a beautiful neon sign. Why don't you light it up anymore? And he's like, well, it costs money. And I'm like, well, what do you mean costs money? He's like, well, besides the upkeep of the neon sign, it costs more to have an illuminated sign than just a non-illuminated sign. You pay a permit, you pay a fee to the city to have a sign that lights up. Like, it's way more money than a sign that doesn't light up. So all these little things, like, we didn't realize. We're like, no, are you kidding? And he's like, yep. He's like, so be damned if I'm going to pay the city any more money. I'll just keep the sign, but I'm not going to light it up anymore. So, it's just like hearing stuff like that. And then, I guess one of the big things was the parking, that the city took away, like, all the public parking. Like, I mean, not many on the street parking anymore, and no more parking lots because the price of real estate got so high that the owners would just sell it and they build big, towering, expensive condo there in its place, instead of having, making, $20 an hour here and there on parking. And that was a big problem for customers that didn't live in the neighborhood anymore.
They moved out, yeah.
Right, like say Little Italy, in Manhattan, or really Little Italy of the Bronx for that matter. I mean, it doesn't rely on people that live in the neighborhood. It relies on people from out of town coming in, like from Connecticut, New Jersey, Long Island, or even Staten Island, and grabbing, a little taste of home, like you were saying, like
where they grew up,
like where they grew up, or that slice of baklava that you can't get anywhere else, and you want to get it from that particular store. But once you get a $65 ticket, guess what? You're not going back to that store. And that happened. I mean, the store owners would tell us this time and time again.
Yeah, all of them said that.
Yeah, all of them said that that's really, really, really difficult. I mean, let alone like all the other rules and regulations.
Right. Like the butcher blocks.
Oh yeah, the butcher blocks. A butcher told us, this is like 100-year-old butcher that had been in business for a really long time.
Yeah, Ukrainian.
Right. They had an old, their butcher block, like their wood butcher block where they cut up all the meat. One day it was gone, and we're like, well, what happened to it? And he's like, oh, the city came in and they told us that, we can't use wood.
It was a hazard.
That it was a hazard, salmonella or something like that. Get rid of the butcher block.
So they had to get a plastic one.
And then like a month later, they came back and they said, no, the plastic is what causes the salmonella. Okay for the butcher blocks. And meanwhile, he had thrown it out. So then he has to buy a whole new old, wood butcher block, cutting area again. I mean, just so ridiculous, stupid things. Like, they come up with these rules, and I guess they don't research them or whatever, and then they implement them, and then, then they change their mind. Or, even like with the coronavirus, a friend of ours owns a restaurant, and he wanted to do the outdoor dining. And when the city okayed that, like they said, you can build like these little barriers, right? So to protect, the customers from the street, because now you can have it in the street.
Like a little corral.
Or like a little corral, right? So he built the barrier, and then an inspector comes by and he's like, no good, shut it down. These aren't 18 inches thick, because they changed the rule from the time when they said like you can build the barriers. Then a week later, they said that the barriers had to be 18 inches thick. So he had to take all those down, pay for new ones to be built, because wood is expensive now. Construction materials actually, pretty costly. Right. Prices have gone up. So it's like thousands and thousands of dollars wasted in time and energy, and, customers not being able to come in. So frustrating. The way the city operates is not
Friendly to business.
no, not friendly to small businesses whatsoever.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what is the objective here? If you run small businesses out and you know what? These big box stores and whatnot, they're not coming as much as they used to, and as we know now, we're in complete discord here, and protesting and violence and all this. And again, I'm not picking a side or whatever. I just, I want everybody to get along. That's my side. Okay.
Right. That's what we want. We want everyone.
And I mean, the police are the police. I mean, who else, comes to save you and stuff like that or whatever. They got to come to some kind of conclusion as to what's proper protocol and what and what is not. So there's pockets of the city, it's horrible, downtown, City Hall, this, that. I mean, it's just I'm just like, what it's like the 60s, this is like the stuff that you will watch, you'd watch on a documentary, but it's happening
even in our own neighborhood, the East Village. I mean, there's a lot of empty storefronts. People are not coming back. The little coffee shop down the street, we're like, when is it going to reopen? It's been months now. And then just the other day, I looked in and like everything's gone. And they took out all the equipment finally. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's not reopening. Because there would be a sign like, "Stay tuned," for our reopening, or
right.
They're told July, and now.
Right. I
That's
mean,
coming
they kept on being told different dates, and then like, how long can you hang on for? And then, I mean, there's talking about chain stores in Union Square. We noticed like right away. We're like, oh wow, MAC Cosmetics, they took their sign down, and American Eagle, they took their sign down.
The first week of the closure, they just
they're not
they just
coming,
cut bait and left.
Right, they're not coming back because maybe they can afford to like just give the finger to the landlord, break their lease, or they have corporate lawyers that can get people out of like contracts and stuff like that. Little mom and pop store, they don't have that legal power. So like if they don't pay their rent, eventually they're going to have to, or declare bankruptcy, I guess.
Right. So, to kind of, my point is like, what is the objective here? Is this to drive businesses out? And now we've got violence and things are not safe. So residents are, people are fleeing. I mean, again, I live on the Upper East Side. There was a mass exodus out to the suburbs, Hamptons. I'm assuming some will come back, some won't.
Right.
What's the, like, who's in charge? Like, what are you doing?
No.
I feel like this is on purpose. It's like it couldn't have, the script almost like just could not have been written. You were talking about the coffee shop stuff. So I too, Lexington Avenue it's dead. It's just, it's so sad. And it was the same thing where you saw a sign, "We'll be back." And then you go, whatever, a few weeks later and you see everything's gone. They're not coming back. They just, they gave up, and then I'm sure this breaks your heart when you see that sign, after 25 years, thank you so much. But it's like, I want to cry. That's like a funeral. That's like going to a funeral every time I read one of those signs.
The guy at our favorite bakery, he's like, we've been through, it's from 1898. 1894. And he's like, we've been through the Great Depression, smallpox, 9/11, everything.
Right, and even the Spanish flu.
World War
flu.
II. And he's like, and now you see him, he's down there, him and his son, he usually has 30 people working for him. And now him and his son are trying to make the place work. They're trying to answer the phone and run out and make deliveries. And,
curbside pickup.
And they're like, we don't know what,
What bakery is that?
This is De Niro.
Right.
He has no other choice, but he's like, I'm going down with the ship.
Yeah, they had to close. I mean, they've reopened, thank goodness.
Right.
But it's an old, Italian bakery, a pastisseria. And, so they have cakes, cookies, not bread. It's not a bread bakery.
Right.
Cannolis and cheesecakes is what they're known for.
Sure.
And they stayed open initially. But then, the owner does not know how to bake all the pastries and cakes that they make.
He has master bakers.
He has master bakers. That's something that his family did starting back in 1894 when they started the bakery. They had master bakers from Italy making all these things. So basically what it was like the bakers couldn't come in anymore because they were worried about taking, they didn't live in the neighborhood. They were worried about taking the subway and the health of their family and this, that, and the other thing. So he had to shut. And I mean, he's since reopened, and now he has like a little outdoor cafe as well. But I mean, business is not the same, for anyone. I mean, even if you're lucky enough that you can get some customers, it's still not the same as when things were vibrantly open. I mean, we also have like a YouTube channel where we've been not only, taking the photos, but we, interview the owners. Like you can see them talking about, like the difficulties of running these businesses. A local bagel shop, I mean, he told us right on camera, I mean, you can listen to it for yourself, business is down 80%.
80%.
In the neighborhood, East Village has a lot of like young students. So a lot of NYU, New School, Cooper Union, there's a lot of colleges, and they live in a lot of the,
the
housing. Not only dorms, I mean, NYU bought up like lots of buildings. NYU owns a great deal of buildings in the East Village.
No, schools canceled.
And so when the NYU sent everyone home, he said, I lost a lot of my customer base right then and there. And then he lost all his corporate accounts because no big, companies are having,
events, right.
They're not having breakfasts for, 100 people anymore. So he lost that business. And then just people in the neighborhood up and left, like you said, your neighborhood emptied out. I mean, the East Village, there are pockets where there's still a lot of people, but there's some areas where, especially with these new expensive buildings, they're pretty empty. I mean, even our own building, I mean, it's fairly empty.
Like after 10:30 out here on the street, 14th Street.
Yeah.
It's a ghost town. It's scary out there at night.
Right. There's
no one in charge. There's packs of people just roaming around out there.
A lot of homeless situation too, unfortunately.
Yeah, and
like
it's
big problem with homeless.
I mean, we have a big dog, and thank God, because when we go out to walk him late, like 12:30, it's scary out there.
Yeah. I mean, we feel like we're back to the 80s, when we walk around at night. Like we don't feel as like particularly safe, to put it that way,
Right.
I mean, I don't, worry too much about it because we've kind of been there before, and we're vigilant. Right. And, I'm a born and bred New Yorker. I feel like I have eyes in the back of my head when I'm walking, but, still it's not, you don't want your city to be like that. I mean, and nobody wants to walk down a street that has empty stores. I mean, even a lot of the stores in the East Village were open very late, so I felt very safe walking my dog alone. Like I wouldn't ask you to come out. Now he usually, we walk together, but I would oftentimes walk the dog at like 1 o'clock in the morning, not think about it at all. I mean,
it'd be like daylight out there.
Right. There was a lot of activity. There was a lot of people out.
Wouldn't
now,
think twice.
Nothing. I mean, the pizzeria used to stay open till 4 a.m. They close by like 9 now.
Right.
I mean, and that's late. Some places are closing earlier. Some places close at 4.
Right.
I mean, for a while, even the chain drugstores were closing at 5 p.m.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
Right.
It was just like, no.
I got so many thoughts in my head. I mean, what are we going to do? I feel like we need to have a protest. Like the good people need to have not people from, I don't know where again, and I'm not judging and whatever, and I'm all about, look, I'm all about respecting each other.
Exactly.
We've lost that in life. I don't care about your politics or whatever. Just be a good person. Just be a good person. I have now separated people into 2 groups: good people and assholes. Like that's it. Like there's just two groups of people. I can't take it anymore. What are we gonna do? We got to. I feel like we need to have our protest. People that work hard, that love this city, that respect this city, that respect a rule of law, and I don't know, but I feel like I said, I feel like foreigners or aliens or something came here and they invaded. Because I look around, I'm like, where are these people from? I mean, they're not living up in the East Village and the Upper East Side. I mean, maybe there's a few people, sprinkled around, but for the most part, I feel like they're coming from someplace else. I mean, it's horrible. And again, I'm not trying to get political and whatever, but I'm sorry, but the leadership here, and this has to be done here on the local level. It has to be done here. And it's like, what's going on? Because every time I hear our mayor, I'm not liking what I'm hearing. I mean, it's almost like I feel like he's enjoying this. It's like, dude, then leave. Then go someplace where this works, okay? But it doesn't work here. And it's really very frustrating. And
the businesses are suffering.
Yeah, for us, I mean, we just try to remain positive, and we're trying to promote, like, through our social media and, our videos that we do, like the importance of these places, because they really do need the customers. That's the bottom line. Like, if you want to save a store, if you want to make it like not close, then give it business.
Yeah, at least give them a chance, because we just talked to the owner of Julius, the oldest gay bar in Greenwich Village, and she's like, yeah, the city's going to give me 7 tables out front. She's like, that's not
right. That's not going to pay her rent.
That's not going to,
but I mean,
it's like, plus you have to jump through hoops, and she's responsible if somebody walks over from another bar with alcohol. And she's like, I'm not the policeman out in the street.
The city is like, they're finding people, and they're taking away their liquor license if somebody is caught drinking, like, with no mask and social distancing.
Right.
But like,
she's like, how can I? She's like, it's hard enough keeping the bar. We can police the bar inside on a Saturday night, but she's like, out front, forget it.
Right. It's very, very difficult what the city wants you to do to be able to operate. It's so many regulations.
Right, but it's that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's unreasonable. It's like people are killing each other here. I mean, and again, we GoFundMe pages, and like I said, we're just trying to help support. Everybody has a GoFundMe page. But people still have to do businesses. So when you talked about, I know there's been a lot of game playing with the change. They're here. They then with the food, and then I know Cuomo said something, and this and that. Look, I understand. Okay, we don't want to go through what we did when this first hit. Personally, I think we got a good handle on it. Thank God, knock on wood, all this stuff. Of course, we don't want anybody getting sick and contagious. I think it's, again, up to us to do what we need to do to make sure that happens. I know the mask, it's a pain in the ass. It's 1,000,000 degrees outside. Just wear the freaking mask. I can't stand it. Trust me. I can't stand it. Like, and when someone's not around me, I take it off to take a breath. It's fine as long as no one's near me. But we got to do what we got to do. But this is just it's not helping the situation. And I just don't like also the way the city, slash the state, sort of like, picked and chose what businesses get to do what. But let me just.
The store could stay open this whole time. Right. But,
there's no reason. I mean, Target was open the whole time, and they had somebody outside, and they, they let so many people in at a time. It was fine. We got through it. But some of the little stores weren't able to, which are the ones that really need it. So like that, exactly. I don't understand that. Liquor stores were available. They never closed for a second. Okay, that's fine. Again, I don't care. But then how come the dress store or the shoemaker couldn't? I mean, I just don't understand that. So that was really unfair. But I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. And I think Corona-wise, COVID-wise, we're in a good place. Again, knock on wood, spit 1,000 times. So, what's like the game plan? I mean, it feels like a little too slow to me. Now, I know there's a whole thing, we don't have to talk about it, but there's a whole thing about schools. But I think that's going to be a big turning point, because if schools can open and we can kind of have that, aside from, it's good for the kids and obviously the education, the socialization, all that kind of stuff, but that also makes neighborhoods active as well. So I think that's going to be a big turning point. If everybody's going to wind up still staying home, and this is going to be all this remote learning, and NYU isn't going to open, and then it's going to continue to be this problem. And I don't see how that's going to change it. I don't know. But I wanted to just mention before I forget, and then I wanted to talk about your nightlife book. I wanted to mention, you're talking about bakeries and stuff. So I'm Greek. Astoria is a big shopping place for us, and there was a bakery called Artopolis, Artopolis, delicious. Big bakery, delicious Greek stuff, right? Other stuff, and they closed a few months ago. And we all ordered. My church would get cakes from there and all that. And
was it older? Like were the owners older?
You know what? I don't know the history. I just know it's been there for a very long time, and it was delicious, really delicious. And a lot, you try to support whatever Greeks try to support other Greek businesses. They had specialties there and stuff, and I know that closed. I mean, Astoria has also changed. When I was growing up, it was very Greek, and then again, a lot of the Greeks moved. Some of them still like own property, rentals and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
But now, there's some restaurants there, but certainly it's funny because when I tell people Greek, they go Astoria, or there is comic. What?
Have you been to Poseidon Bakery? That's an amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good too. But people are like, oh, you're from Astoria, whatever, and I'm like, no. I said, but there's not that many actual Greeks that live there. The other thing I wanted to mention is the theater. So Broadway, I mean, people come here for the shows, right? And the tourism, and that's not that's not going to happen until 2021 at some point. I don't even know when. January.
I mean, the theater district is like total ghost town. Like we walked through
and all those small businesses.
There are people don't realize there's a lot of small businesses around there. I mean, it's not just chain stores. Right. There's there's little restaurants and little cafes, and I mean, who's going there now? I mean, the office buildings that are in the neighborhood also are empty. Maybe like 10 people are going into a building now, on any given day. Most people are working from home still, even if they're able to, go to the building. The companies aren't reopening up again.
No. Right.
So yeah, the theater district, that closing has huge ramifications, for the hotel industry, for everything. And plus, it's not just actors and actresses when you think of the theater. There's people that do the lighting. There's people,
that make the light bulbs.
Right. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The costume makers, like somebody makes the costumes for all those productions. All that stuff stops now. So it's huge.
We know a woman that owns a little fabric store in the Lower East Side. Right.
She supplies all the costumes, all the fabric for the costumes from the Metropolitan Opera. So that's a big chunk of her business is that. You wouldn't ever think that, just walking by her store, but she has like lovely, beautiful fabrics, beautiful brocades, everything.
It's been there how long?
Since I guess it was the 1890s or something. I'd have to look it up. I forget, but she's been there a really, really, really long time.
Right. No, Broadway there's a lot of businesses that are a byproduct that earn their money from Broadway. Exactly. You would not think, which is great. Exactly. Great point. Christmas is a very big season here. That is, completely out ski. It was
they canceled the feast of San Gennaro, so no San Gennaro feast.
That's usually packed. I'm glad. I'm not glad about any of this, but I mean, I'm glad that I had a few things on my bucket list over the last few years, and I'm really glad I did them. I'm saying it to you because I know that you'll appreciate it as New Yorkers and just loving all the little nuances and things that make up the city. I was an elf at Macy's for 2 years. I always wanted to be an elf, and I had the opportunity and the time, and I got hired right away. That was great. And I'm like, well, I am a CPA too. So, but they're like, oh, we just need your elf skills. That's all. Like, okay, well, I'm short, so that works. But anyway, so I did that at Macy's, which was really awesome because I grew up going to Macy's, sitting on Santa's lap. And let me tell you something. We stack them in. It's like a petri dish in there. I don't know. I can't, if it's going to open, it's going to be on such a small scale. But again, it's like, you're going to have the kid go on Santa's lap. I mean, that's like the whole point. I don't know how to, so that's sad because that's been going on, and people come from all over the world. I mean, I spoke to people from places I've never heard of. So that's really sad. The Rockettes, because they'd come to Macy's a lot, and then because I get a lot of, we've got tickets to the Rockettes, so there was, that's always that part of the thing. Even people from, Connecticut, New Jersey, they come, they make it a day. So that's all that. But anyway, I did get to be an elf for a couple of years. And because I was an elf, that last year I was able to be in the parade. I always wanted to be in the parade.
Very cool.
So I did that, and talk about people and it was funny because I was in the parade, so I got to see, I went the whole route to see how many people there are. Usually when I've gone, I go to a spot, I look and this and that. So that was wild. And I'm like, I'm really glad I did that. Who knows the next time I'm going to be able to do that. And I did another New York iconic thing. I did the polar bears in Coney Island in January 1st. Not last year, the year before. So again, it was like, everybody was like laughing at me, like, what are you doing? You're going to die? Why are you doing all these things? I'm like, because the timing is right. And I'm glad I did. So, I really, like I said, I just want good for everybody, and I really want us to kind of get back to where we were. And I really feel like if tomorrow this thing went away, we can turn this thing around. But it scares me because the longer we go, the harder it is to rebound.
Yeah,
and, and people like you and me, we're like hanging on, but I just, I don't know. I'm just so, it's so sad. It's just sad. That's like the only way to to kind of describe it.
Yeah, heartbreaking.
So, but just, to keep doing what you're doing. You also have because I think it's important. I think it's on an ethereal level, I think it's important that we put positive energy out there and just, it's like, it's okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And I think about my grandparents and my great grandmother, who I knew, and the things that they went through. So, we'll get through it, and hopefully scientists and smart people and doctors are going to, kind of come up with something, whether it's to take or, a vaccine that's safe, of course. And I kind of have faith. I have faith in that. And I think too, now this thing has been around for a few months. I think one of the, a huge issue was it just came bam, and there was no information. I mean, at least there's a little bit more in terms of like recognizing it and treating it. And, I think that's why, what happened to us. Because I will always say this. We do have the best doctors and the best hospitals here. Sure. And, when we were breaking down, that was scary. That was really scary. So, but you have a book, just to switch gears for 1 second, you have a book about nightlife as well.
Right, that's this one, that's New York Nights. And it's like, what it is, it's like in the same vein as the others as far as like mom and pop stores, but it's all things that like are more geared to like business at night. So it's not just stores, it is some old theaters that we documented as well, and bars and restaurants. But in particular, they would have like beautiful neon signs, or it was a business that primarily you would visit at night. So we were, always taking these photos of these mom and pop stores during the day. And we said, we're not doing this justice. Like, we really have to document some of these at night as well, because some of them frankly are closed during the day. Like, they only open at night, like a nightclub or something like that. Right. So we said, we got to do that. And that was a real labor of love, because for us, we wanted to go out as late as possible, because we wanted to capture that, like, intangible feel like that the city has late at night, when, it's much more, now it's quiet all the time, but at that time, that was the only time where you wouldn't hear constant honking and like, be pushing people aside to take a photo. We would have a little bit of leeway. And for us, we had to use a tripod, because before, from a photography standpoint, it was a lot more difficult, because when you're taking a photo of something and it's rather dark out, you have to leave like the shutter open longer to take the photo. So it necessitated the use of a tripod, because before we were always very quick, like within a few seconds we could take a photo and then, be out of someone's way. But the New York Nights book, we really loved the experience. Sometimes we would take the photo at like, right before they would close, like a bar, we would get there like at 3:45 because the bars closed at 4 a.m. because we wanted to get that last minute feel, like that one last, bartender or, waiter at a restaurant just leaning against the counter. And it felt really special to us. And, don't know when that is ever going to come back. Speaking of,
The old bars.
yeah, I'm glad we took those photos, because I fear for many, many, many of these places, because, with not being able to have any date of when you can reopen, like you said, the longer things go on, the sadder it looks for it. I like to be a positive person. I am a very positive person, but I'm also realistic. And I know, if I owned a business, I mean, how long can I keep on paying rent for if I was
Paying rent,
or not paying rent, or whatever it is, for an indefinite time? It just, it's just a bad situation. But yeah, we really, 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 really love that. And like I said, it's not just stores, it's the restaurants and bars and theaters.
And there's something about New York at night that's also has its own personality.
Sure.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. And you sort of like look in. I'm obviously you guys are. I'm a people watcher. I mean, even when I walk by in the street and I see if the shades are open in somebody's house in a brownstone, I always have to look. I'll see a beautiful staircase. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. But I'm a stand-up comic. So of course we do a lot of stuff at night, and also like for us too, the comedy clubs, they're waiting. And actually I had on the show the owner of Broadway Comedy Club on 53rd and 8th Ave, between 8th and 9th. He also owns Greenwich Village Comedy Club down on Bleecker, which is right also near the Comedy Cellar, which is a very iconic place. But I heard they were going to open with partitions, and so it's very tough. I mean, I tend to do a lot more private stuff. I do clubs, obviously. I do shows that are, especially in the city, that are like produced by friends. A lot of bars do comedy shows. They have a comedy night. I've done them all. Brooklyn as well, downtown. I mean, that's kind of how I got started. I mean, it was, all these things going downtown and doing open mics and bringer shows and all that stuff. Greenwich Village had Boston Comedy Club when I started, Comedy Cellar, obviously. And it's, there was the Pear, the Grizzly Pear. Is that it? The Grizzly Pear? And just, so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But Al Martin, who is the owner of Broadway Comedy Club, he was talking about, and I had him on like 2 months ago. So we were talking about Times Square and how all these businesses, and it's, very much predicated on what their capital is and how much they can kind of hold on if they own the building. Also, he gave me an interesting perspective too, where people are in their life. So, if you're, I don't know, I'm just going to say an age, but like if you're in your 70s, and you don't have somebody to pass it down to and whatnot, you might either sell out or just say, you know what, I'm done. I made my money. And, I'm just going to pack it in. It's just too difficult. So really, like I said, it really just all depends. But we are waiting for the clubs to open. I generally do my podcast at the Comic Strip. They have a podcast studio there.
Oh.
So, it's very, very tough. But your book on nightlife, I mean, back in the day when I used to have fun, I used to love to go to a disco and dance and it was great. Sure. And there is one place, because I follow them on Instagram. It's called Retro New York City, and it's someplace in the Times Square area. And I really wanted to go. They post every weekend. They post like all the music that I love. And I wrote, and I was like, when this thing is over, I'm coming. Like, I'm going dancing. I know that my husband's not going to want to go at 10 o'clock at night. I don't care. Have a cup of coffee. We're going. And that's it. You only live once. So, but anyway, I can't thank you enough. I could talk to you guys forever. We'll have to meet in person. We'll have to meet in person and have some
definitely
scenarios or something. Go
yes.
Go to a local place and have a coffee and a pastry.
A cappuccino and a cannoli. What could be better?
Right.
for sure. And I love what you do, and your passion for it, and your creativity, and the art of it. And I mean, I just think it's amazing. And you know, I think people like you are really what's going to help us get through. And give us all of your social media, and your books are on there also. They make great gifts, guys. Like, they make amazing gifts.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we're on Instagram and Twitter, and on YouTube is James and Karla. So it's
Karla with a K.
James, and then spell out AND KARLA. Yeah, I spell it with a K, not a C. And then our website is James and Karla Murray, MURRAY.com. And yeah, Facebook also is James and Karla Murray Photography. Yeah. So yeah, I think we.
And you also, I mean, obviously you take professional photos. And do you do headshots, by the way? Do you ever do headshots? Do you ever do headshots?
No, mostly like buildings. They don't complain. Buildings and interior photography as well. Yeah. But I mean, you know, we take portraits of the store owners, though. We really do like to do that. So I mean, that's how we make our living. But that's we do like to take pictures of people, but we don't do any weddings or anything like that. And yeah, you know, on our website, you can see a link to all our books, and they're even available. I'll show people in this. This is like the mini edition. So it's like the same book. You know, this is the storefront 2 one. I mean, there's plastic on the outside of it because it's a brand new copy. We haven't ripped it open yet. But this is like a nice small apartment size for New Yorkers, because it doesn't weigh like these. Are 7 pounds. That's a big, massive coffee table size book. But these are, you were talking about gifts. These are nice because they're only a few pounds, and
you can carry it around with you, visit some of the spots that are left.
Yeah, that's why we were happy when the book came out, and that's the smaller edition size. It's called the mini edition, because we wanted people. You gave the address for every store that we photographed, because we want people to go there and, you know, check it out and shop there, or you know, go themselves. So we give the address so you can find it, and that way, you know, you can put it in a backpack or even, you know, a large purse and carry it around with you.
It's like your own little Fromers, like you're like your it's a travel guide. I mean, I think that's great. No, that I'm very impressed. Are you on Amazon also, or is it just available on your website?
Yes, no, it's every independent bookstore, because we always like to support the independent stores. But of course, you know, in this day and age, you have to be on Barnes and Noble and Amazon as well. You know, Amazon, they discount things. You know, there's not that's the problem with the small little independent bookstores. They can't.
But it's at the Strand. It's at Strand.
Strand Books, a great independent bookstore. They carry our books. Rizzoli, beautiful bookstore.
Yep, right in the Flatiron.
Right in the Flatiron district. They carry it, and McNally Jackson booksellers as well. Another great place.
Great. Well, great. I highly suggest it. It's a great gift. I tell you, I might buy one myself, just so I can go back down memory lane and feel good.
Well, then we can meet. We'll sign it and personalize it to you.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, both of you. You're just so lovely, and it was an honor to have you on. I'm really excited.
Thank you for having us. We really do appreciate it.
Stay up.
Yeah, stay healthy, stay safe.
I will, and I'll let you know when we post this. It'll be like within the next week or 2. Okay?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because we put it up on our social media as well.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. I am Ellen Karras. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I don't know why I hesitate. Twitter and Instagram at Greek Chick Comic. We don't edit, so we just keep going. And Facebook, Ellen Karras, Greek Goddess of Comedy. Go to my website, ellenkarras.com. And till next time, keep the faith, everybody. We'll get through this. Thank you. Bye.